Welcome to the School of Public Policy Data for Public Policy seminar series. My name is Corey Baird, and I am a third-year student at the School of Public Policy, PhD student, and I really like teaching statistical software. R, Python, and Stata are all languages I use quite frequently in my research and my job, and as a person with no background in coding or statistics, I really enjoy sharing this knowledge with other people who were kind of in a similar position as me when I started policy school. So without further ado, I will kind of introduce you to the basic overview of what we are going to do in this seminar. So the seminar goals you can read for yourself. I have a tentative schedule set out here. And this is all hosted on a public web page, the URL you can see here, and I will provide you a link. We're going to cover our sessions first, and then in the second half, we are going to cover some Stata commands. All of this code, as I said here, can be viewed at this link, which is actually the same website. Again, no background in coding or theoretical statistics is necessary. I'm going to provide you the code for each session in these folders here. I'm going to have a Stata folder as well eventually. The first session I will just kind of jump into right here. And each session, so there'll be 3 sessions within R, will contain 3 files that I want you to be aware of. The first file is module 1. And this is kind of what you can think of as the first half of session 1. Module 2 will be the second half of session 1. I wanted to break it down because I think some students might want to see only one of the modules rather than both. And breaking it down will also allow me to create more concise videos, which I think work out a little better. I highly recommend you go through these videos with me by clicking in to the code, and it will show you exactly what I will be reading through. As I just discussed, session 1 is composed of 3 parts. Module 1 covers RStudio Basics. That's the current page you're viewing. Module 2 covers downloading. There's a link to that here. And then the exercise to the materials covered in modules 1 and 2 is linked there. Again, you don't need to click on the links. You can just find those notebooks here. But for now, we're going to start here. And how you should go over this with me is on maybe one half of your screen, you can have the code that I have here and the explanation. And on the other half of your screen, you can have your RStudio Cloud, which I recommend to run R. RStudio Cloud is pretty easy. Once you register for a free account, all you have to do is click New Project, and then you should be able to access some code. Let me just begin now by covering what R can actually do, just extremely quickly from these notes. You can access a lot of different libraries which allow you to do a lot of fun things in R, like graphing, regression, mapping. These are what are called libraries, as I just said, and a lot of times they really can save you a lot of time. Like, for example, the World Bank has great libraries that allow you to access their WDI data sets, and so they're just really helpful. The second thing that I want to say is that when you're using R, you can think of it as almost similar to Excel in the sense that you are going to be working with a lot of sheets. And these sheets are what are referred to as data frames in R lingo. And there's a variety of ways you can run R. The thing that you're seeing on the left side here is actually what's called the Jupyter Notebook. But I highly recommend you write your R code in RStudio. Again, R is a programming language, not an application. So a lot of times you need to use an application in order to run R. And the way I want you to do that is to use RStudio, as you can see here on the right side. I think I showed you just before, in order to create a new project to get to the screen, You just click New Project. Once RStudio is launched, you'll see the interface will look like this. A lot of people get super confused because they don't know where they should write their code, and that's because they haven't clicked this little button sometimes. So if you click this button, then you'll see what is kind of the standard RStudio terminal. You can run code by typing code in the upper left here. So the upper left hand quadrant is where you're going to write your code. So upper left hand is write code. The lower left hand, right down here, is where the code outputs. The upper right hand is where your variables are going to be, and the lower, so that's where your variables and data, and the lower right is where your files are going to be. So as I show here, you can run code by clicking this run button, but we need to actually write some code. So let's write a print statement. So R is fun. You can either highlight it or just keep your cursor there and click run, and then it will have printed below there, as you can see. As I just showed you, you can actually write comments, and comments are written by using a hashtag here. And if you highlight this whole entire block of code and run it, what you'll see is those comments actually print, but the important thing is it's not actually read as code. It's just read as this special commented output. So it allows you to keep cleaner code. So I always recommend writing a lot of comments, okay? So, and this is exactly when you're doing this session, I want you to actually write it with me. It's just better. Sometimes I give the code directly, but this time I'm actually gonna have you write it yourself, because I think actually writing it with your hands rather than copy and pasting it or running it is just better. So just maybe actually even do this exact thing with me. Write those comments to just give you an idea of where you're pulling the text from. So what you want to do now, and what I want to show, is how to save an object. So let's just call this object new string equals, this is a string. It could be called names. Corey. So I'll run this code. I'll run it one by one. A shortcut to run code on a Mac is Command Return. So I ran line 13, and what you can see now is that there's this new object that's been saved in the upper right-hand quadrant. Remember I said the upper right-hand quadrant is where variables and data are stored, so you can see that. Now if we run line 14, we see that again, that's saved. Now how do we access those strings? What happens? What the heck is this? Well, let me show you. If you now run this code on line 16, it's called new string, which is exactly what it's been saved. It will then print out the value of that string, right? Only the value. If I want to print out the value of the name string, just run it. And there it has print. So that is a quick example of just how to save text and string objects. Actually, this is pretty helpful, and you will see later on why. Let's move on to how to import data in Excel. You can import data by reading a CSV file, for example. If you're using RStudio Cloud, it can be a bit tricky to upload data, but I'll just show you how to do that very briefly here. You click Upload, you choose the file, and then that file should have been on your desktop somewhere. You can download that file that we are going to use today from this original folder that we were in before. You just click on the vote.csv file, and then you're going to click on raw, and then you're going to just click File, Save Page As, and then just save it maybe to your desktop. It's already been saved for me. But then I am going to be able to upload that now from my desktop. Now we're going to upload one more file, but we're going to do so within a subfolder. So we're going to create a new folder here, and we're going to title that, what is that called? It's called sub folder. Make sure that's capitalized. Now that subfolder has been created, and we're just going to grab this data and again click on raw, and now we're going to just save page as, save to your desktop, and then upload it again. Now that the files have been uploaded, now we can finally read that CSV file. Just a tip, if you want to erase any of this kind of output here and you want to make it cleaner, you can just click on that sweeper button here. If you want to erase any of those objects that you've saved, you can click that sweeper button here. Once you click the sweeper button, you can't access those strings anymore, right? Because it doesn't exist. You'll have to run that code again in order to access any objects that you've saved. Okay, so let's import data. We do that with the function read.csv, and then we type in the name of our CSV file. Now this CSV file has to be in quotes, and it has to be the exact same name that you see in your folder. And if you run this, then you'll notice that it has successfully read. But it has unfortunately not saved. So in order to save an object, you have to do it the exact same way as a string. You have to create a name, it can be any name. I'm going to call it df, short for data frame, and I'm going to set it equal to that function. Now once I run that, now you'll see that that data is available, and you can actually even browse it by clicking on this little button. So that worked. The common mistake, as I just said, is that people don't set it equals to whatever name that they want to name it, and then it doesn't save, it just prints. Now I want to show you how to read a CSV file in a subfolder. So that's that subfolder that we created. What we do is we first look in the subfolder, which has this arrest.csv, and we see that the name is arrest.csv. But unlike the first read CSV command, we actually have to also include the folder name, not just the file name. So we type in sub folder / arrest.csv, and this will work. Again, I didn't set it equal to anything, so it's not going to save. I'm just going to call this dfrs. By calling it something else, and you'll see that it will be printed out as something different in your top right environment. And now I want to show you the basics of what it is that we just imported, kind of the basics of the data frame. So there are a couple of functions that I think are important. So the first one is the head function. It just displays the first couple of rows. All you have to do is type in head. You have to type in the name of your data frame perfectly. It can't be misspelled. And then you can type in the number of lines you want to see. And you'll see, let's sweep it out just to give you a clear view. Then you'll see it shows the first couple rows. This is all pretty straightforward once you get the hang of it. The names function will display column names. It's over just to make sure we have good notes. Names, and inside, so what we're going to pass through is the name of that data frame again, but this time, unlike the head function, we don't have to have a number. All we need to do is have the name of that data frame, and it will give us the columns. It's pretty helpful, actually. You can also see summary statistics by just using the summary function. Hopefully you're getting an idea of what functions do. And this will give us our summary statistics, min, max, first quartile, mean, median. information like that. Just to kind of go on a little bit of a tangent, but it's an important point. R has all these different functions that you can use. Read.csv is a function. The head is a function. Names is a function. Summary is a function. Print is even a function. These functions allow you to do different things in R, and the libraries that we import, which I'll talk about a little bit later, give you more access to functions. So we will talk about that a little bit on the live session, I think this Friday. Now I want to move on to the individual column manipulation, or just basically accessing columns. It's just kind of an overly fancy way to say it. If you want to say grab the vote column in the df data frame, it's actually pretty easy. You just type in df and then you do a $sign and you type in the name of the column. If we forgot our column names, we can use that names function. Okay, now we know those are the names. So let's do df vote. And now it kind of print off that column, all the data for that column. Why do we want to do that? Well, that will allow us to use different functions, which give us mean, standard deviation. These are functions that are quite helpful. So we just got our mean of the vote column. So that means 85% of people voted. I'm going to show the standard deviation. I can type that right. Let's try a different column. Again, remind yourself of the column names. Okay. Income. Now we have the standard deviation of income. So just to review what we covered today in module 1 of session 2, we covered the read CSV. We actually did not cover this, so ignore that. We covered head, we covered names, we covered summary, mean, and standard deviation. And hopefully you got a better idea of how RStudio works. I just want to stress again that this is where you write your code in the top left. This is where that code is output. This is where your objects are saved, and this is your file directory. Now, when you want to save this code, you just click save. You can title it Module 1 code. And you'll notice that now that has been saved as an R script. So if you were to close this down and you were to see the screen and not have your results, you think your code is erased. Fear not, it's not, it's been saved.